Welcome to M Squared TechCast.
And I have with me Kate O'Hara. And as a disclaimer, she's been working with me recently on some of my marketing. So she sort of was on my team. But today she's going to be talking about one of her passion projects, the STEAM Network for Entrepreneurs. And we're still fleshing this out. But it's really her idea, so I thought it would be an opportunity for her to come on the show and talk about what it is she has in mind. Take it away, Kate.
Whoa. Thanks, Mike. I love listening to Heidi, the guest that was here before. And I'm seeing that there's so much interest that's happening with STEM. And we have to, my sister-in-law, who's an incredible artist, she said, Kate, you have to put the A in
For the
STEM,
arts.
make it
yes,
STEAM.
Make it the arts, yes.
And thanks, Mike. It is a really wonderful kind of opportunity that's happening right now, especially what I'm seeing in the entrepreneurial world. And, you know, when I was growing up, it was called business and it was called surviving. And now we, you know, have so many different things that are evolving. And there's a real interest that I'm seeing. Like there was just an announcement that the Melinda Gates is bringing in $1 billion to the Chicago area for technology, and hasn't really segmented it to STEM or STEAM.
Right.
And I'd like to bring up sort of what the difference is, because when you look at this particular network, you know, it's science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all different types of more intense than just saying, okay, we're going to talk about, technology.
Right. Okay. So what is you have that 30,000-foot vision. So why don't you give us that vision now? When we say STEAM Network for Entrepreneurs, specifically, what are we talking about?
Well, I believe that the network and the broadcast video and the storytelling is where it's really important. Everything now is video.
Right.
People are wanting to see, podcasts and, how things are evolving. And I think the storytelling is very important. Like, I can give you a little bit of a background about
go ahead.
me, so
Sure.
that might help why I'm here, why I brought it about.
Right.
I actually got my degree from a Bachelor of Science degree from Florida Institute of Technology, which is in aviation,
Mm-hmm.
with a marketing, sort of minor. And my father gave me my diploma, and my father was head of the ocean engineering school. So the reason that's kind of important is that as I was going to school there, I thought this is really going to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And the class that I took, I was taking aircraft performance, and I was taking engines and systems. And all I really wanted to do was, travel around the world. But I had to take these classes, and it was a very technology-centered degree. In my classroom, there was only, out of 40 guys, I was the only female.
Mm.
So that gave me sort of a leg up in a lot of different ways. The guys loved, having, a woman in, the school.
Mm-hmm.
And that translated to when I had, I started my own oil company. I was one of the co-founders. And the way that started was I met an inventor who actually had helped with the Exxon Valdez oil spill
I
cleanup.
remember that, a long time ago.
Yeah. And he had invented this particular concept of taking oil out of the dirt, that had, spilled. And so I knew of the, who became our CEO, he actually had worked for Chevron.
Mm-hmm.
So the three of us sat down and we said, let's start a business.
Mm-hmm.
And then we looked around and we said, well, we need a lot of money. And then we said, well, how much do we need? And so on top of having an idea that started the size of a water bottle, we actually grew it to a machine that stood over 120 feet in the air.
Mm.
So this this raise that we did was $9 million.
Okay.
And I sat on the board, and there was, again, this is the story part, but I sat with an investor. We were out in the middle of Wyoming. Our guys had lit a line heater, and they didn't know there was gas in the line heater. It blew up and about killed 12 of our guys. And they were coming into the hospital, and the ambulance was there, and it was the CEO's son. And I had to see his wife, and say, gee, we really didn't mean to, blow it up, and we'll get back to you. But the investor was there as well. So these are the kinds of stories that when you're sitting on a board, you're starting a company, you're talking about things like science and medical and all that, are really important to have those kinds of discussions.
So that's the kinds of stories you want to have, the backstories for these entrepreneurs about it. Everybody thinks, gosh, I'll just start a business and make $1 million like Jamie Lowell or something, but as we know, that typically isn't how it works, right?
Exactly. And to bring other women in to tell their stories so that when we, talk to girls or we talk to other women, but more than anything, what I like, the exciting part is the financing and how you put that together. And I tell everybody, get a contract, get an agreement. And I feel like a broken record, but we started, we had no money, and it took us $1.5 million to grow to build the machine. And we actually went to the investor and said, here, we've got a contract, give us $1.5 million. So we retained the equity of the company.
Yeah. Okay. So going forward, I know we're going to work together, I'll be working with you in the video space, but you're going to essentially be producing the network, as it were, coming up with the guests. Clearly, you want to have people in there that have great backstories on how they made it as an entrepreneur, but what else would you like to cover?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, and this is sort of my own philosophy, I don't know how true it is, but through the things that I've seen, is that the biggest support that I've gotten as a girl, a woman, whatever, is through the men. And they've encouraged me and brought us in. So that's why I'd like to call it the STEAM network, because I know there's a gender difference, and it's especially true, like just another quick story if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's kind of a funny kind of story, but I went to Boston Scientific and I raised about $20 million for a breast cancer device company. And we sat in a room and there was 12 guys and I was the only female. And this was for breast cancer. And it was a device company and everybody was a physicist. They were just like really incredibly smart. And one of the guys, he was like a jet jockey, Navy type. He turns and he says, well, there's really nothing wrong with a core needle biopsy. And I looked at him and my eyes got really big. I've never had a core needle biopsy, but I have had so many women that have come up to me and they've told me their stories. And I looked at him, and I don't know if anybody knows what it is, but it basically is, it's a spring-loaded gun, which is the size of a straw, and a woman lays down, and she has the medical technician basically take the spring-loaded gun and shoot it to where the tumor is. And I said, well, and he made this...
Sounds very painful to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and he made this comment, and I said, well, I wonder what would happen if we, put it to the lower unit.
Yes.
And all the guys, all 12 guys, were squirming, and I got out of there, and of course I was very nervous because I, kind of stood up, and I was the only female, and I didn't have the physics and the PhDs and everything, and I ran out to talk to one of the secretaries, and I told her what I said. We all just started laughing. It was kind of like that was that girl moment. So if we can bring these stories more, and I think to be able to finance the actual companies that are, STEM companies with the art, the creative part in there, then I would feel like I really accomplished something.
Got about 3 minutes left, so let's talk a little bit about. I obviously know some of the backstory here about who you're working with. Let's throw out some folks. For instance, there's other things you're doing in the CBD space with Eric Hipple.
Oh my gosh!
We got a few minutes. Let's talk a little bit about that. Maybe that could play into this entrepreneurs and STEM and all that.
Well, the thing that's amazing is because of the health interest and background, I've met up with Eric, and actually we were talking about stem cells, and he's also talking about growth hormones. And he has a nonprofit that's wonderful. It's called After the Impact. And
Eric Hipple was the Lions quarterback in the 1980s. He sustained a lot of head injuries that he suffered from. Let me just preface it by saying that. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, thank you. He's a Detroit Lions quarterback, so
Yes, that's she's not a sports fan.
Well, I spent 25 years in the Bay Area, so it's kind of interesting being back here. But anyway, he's done an awful lot to move so much forward, and as far as the science and the neuroscience, and what he's doing is amazing, not just with our NFL players or athletes, but also with what he's doing with our military veterans.
Right.
So one of the things we were talking about is, geez, there's an awful lot of women that are military veterans, and let's, see how that can kind of play out as well.
Right, absolutely. So we got a little over a minute or so left, so let's tell people how they can reach out to you to get more information.
Well, right now, I think the best way is either I pick up the phone, so I can give you my phone number.
Phone number is good?
It's funny, it's closer to Lansing, so it's a 517 area code, and it's 610-6833 is my cell number. And, it's so funny. I talk about technology, but I have a Hotmail account.
Yes, oldie but goodie. Yes,
I love it. But it's Kate O'Hara, all small case 123, and it's at Hotmail.
Okay, again, that's Kate O'Hara. She's working with me on some marketing efforts and on her own efforts to create this it's STEM network for entrepreneurs with a sort of a heavy women element to it, but not just women. Right?
A female perspective.
Yes.
And it's really where we've got to take and look at the whole, I think the whole of it. How do we take the sciences and math, and especially with Michigan being so wonderful in the life sciences.
Sure.
How do we move it forward?
Sounds great.
Additional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.